upon a time, a young man came to me and said, "Sir, I have 99 problems." I smiled and said, "Wow, only 99? I know people with unlimited subscriptions to problems." You see? Questions. Life doesn't give us problems. Life gives us situations. It's our mind that turns them into problems. Today, questions. Let's talk about how to kill that one enemy that has killed more dreams than failure ever did. Negative thinking. Because if you can control your mind, my friends, you can control your world. Questions. Thoughts are like guests. Some are pleasant, some are annoying, and some you just want to leave ASAP. Don't serve tea to every negative thought that knocks on your mind's door. Questions. The problem is not negative thinking. The problem is hosting it. You can't change what you don't notice. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, pause, smile, and say, questions. There you are again. But awareness breaks the automatic chain of negative patterns. Just as we sweep our home every morning, sweep your mind too. Remove the dust of complaints, comparisons, questions, and criticism. Gratitude is the broom. Use it daily. The mind loves drama. It writes horror stories that never happen. Every time you think, well, what if it doesn't work? Ask yourself questions. But what if it does? Same imagination, new direction. You speak to others kindly, but how do you speak to yourself? If your inner talk is toxic, no amount of positivity outside will help. Questions. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply care for. If you sit in a dark room all day, even a candle feels like the sun. Surround yourself with positive people, uplifting books, questions, inspiring videos, and gratitude-filled environments. Environment is stronger than willpower. Every notification is not a necessity. Sometimes, questions, peace doesn't come from meditation, it comes from mute. And silence is not empty, it's full of answers. Between every trigger and your reaction, there's a space. Questions. In that space lies your peace, power, and perspective. Pause before reacting. Breathe before replying. Think before assuming. Every scar tells a story, not of suffering, but of strength. Questions. The people who rise are not those without pain, but those who used it as a teacher. Don't ask, why me? Ask questions. What can I learn? You can't expect your body to stay fit if you eat junk every day. Similarly, you can't expect your mind to stay peaceful if you feed it with gossip, fear, and comparison. Questions. Read something good. Listen to something kind. Say something uplifting. Every single day, my dear friends, we all have a battle within. Between the voice of doubt and the voice of faith. Questions. The one that wins is the one you feed more often. Remember, negative thinking doesn't die in a day. It dies in layers, slowly, silently, but surely. Kill it not with hate, but with awareness. Questions. Gratitude and love. Because a peaceful mind is not a gift you find, it's a garden you grow. So start watering your garden today. Thank you. Questions. You see, our mind is like a busy railway station. Every few seconds, a new train of thought arrives. Some are peaceful, some are exciting, and some are completely chaotic. Now, questions. If you tried to jump on every train that passed by, where would you end up? Lost, exhausted, and probably very far from where you actually wanted to go. The same happens with our thoughts. They come, questions. They go, they stop for a while, but not all of them deserve our ticket. Negative thoughts especially. They are like those trains that don't go anywhere, just circle the track endlessly. Questions. Yet we often hop on them and then we wonder why we feel so drained. Imagine this, you wake up one morning, the alarm rings, you're feeling lazy and tired. The first thought that comes, questions. Another boring day. Now if you grab that thought and entertain it, you've already started digging a mental hole for yourself. Within minutes, the next thought arrives. Questions. I hate my job. Then another. Why is my life so hard? And suddenly, before breakfast, your mood has already fallen apart. You didn't choose to be sad. You simply hosted the wrong thought. Questions. The truth is, thoughts are visitors, not residents. They come, they stay for a while, and then they leave. Questions. The problem begins when we roll out a red carpet for every negative thought that enters our mind. We give it tea, snacks, and sometimes even a permanent room. Let's take a simple example. Questions. Suppose someone at work criticizes your idea. A negative thought might immediately arise. Maybe I'm not good enough. You could start feeding it by recalling every other failure you've had. Questions. Comparing yourself with others or worrying about what people think. Before you know it, you've built an entire mansion for that one tiny comment. But what if instead you simply observed it? Questions. Just said to yourself, Shim, that's a thought. It came. It's okay. Let's not engage. Then you shift your focus to something constructive. That's awareness in action. Questions. Observation is not suppression. It's understanding that every thought is like a cloud floating across the sky of your mind. You don't chase clouds, right? You just watch them drift by. Questions. Similarly, you don't need to chase or fight your thoughts. You only need to notice them. Now think about this. In your phone, you get hundreds of notifications daily. Questions. But do you open every single one? Of course not. You choose what's worth your attention. The mind also sends notifications. Some useful, some spam. Negative thoughts are mental spam. Questions. When they pop up, don't click. Because once you click, you invite viruses, anxiety, stress, regret. Here's a small practice you can try. The next time a negative thought arises, questions. Pause and label it. Say to yourself, this is a thought, not a fact. That one sentence creates a gap. And that gap is freedom. You're no longer inside the thought. Questions. You're watching it from outside. That single shift from I am sad to I am noticing sadness is incredibly powerful. One of the greatest spiritual teachers once said, questions. The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. When you observe your thoughts, you become the master. When you identify with them, you become the servant. Questions. Let's make it even simpler with a daily life story. Imagine you're scrolling through social media and you see your friends' vacation pictures, beaches, resorts, fancy dinners. Instantly, questions. A thought appears, whoa, they're doing so much better than me. That's the negative train arriving. Now you have two choices. Option 1. You jump in. You start comparing, complaining, questions, and feeling low. That train takes you to the land of frustration. Option 2. You just wave at it. You smile and think, that's a thought. Let it pass, and you go back to your peace. Questions. Observation gives you that power. You no longer get carried away by every wave. You become the shore watching the waves come and go. Questions. Our life changes not when we stop negative thoughts completely, because that's impossible, but when we stop believing them automatically. The mind will always talk, it's what minds do. Questions. But you don't have to take it so seriously. It's like a radio. Sometimes it plays your favorite song, sometimes it plays noise. You can always lower the volume. Questions. When you start living as an observer, you begin to experience silence between the thoughts. In that silence, clarity blooms. Peace enters. Questions. You begin to realize that your thoughts are not you. They are just stories your mind is telling. And you can choose whether to listen or not. Every day, practice being the watcher. Questions. When anger arises, watch it. When sadness comes, observe it. When fear visits, say, here you are again, I see you. The moment you see the thought clearly, questions, you separate yourself from it, and it starts losing its grip. Think of your mind as a TV screen. You can't control every program that appears, but you can choose what channel to stay on. Questions. If a negative channel is playing, don't argue with the TV. Just change the channel. Switch to gratitude. Switch to laughter. Switch to silence. So, my friends, questions. Remember this simple truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. The thoughts may scream, but the observer is calm. The thoughts may change, but the observer remains steady. Questions. And that observer, that awareness is your greatest power. When you learn to observe without attachment, negative thinking loses its fuel. It starves and fades away. Questions. Just like a flame without oxygen. Because thoughts need your attention to survive. Stop feeding them and they disappear on their own. So next time a negative thought knocks on your mind's door, questions. Smile and say, "Thank you for visiting, but I'm not serving tea today." And in that moment, you realize that peace was never something you had to find. Questions. It was something that was always within you, waiting for you to stop entertaining the noise and start enjoying the silence. Questions. Awareness is like the light in a dark room. You see, darkness doesn't have to be pushed out. You simply turn on the light and it disappears on its own. Questions. That's what awareness does. It shines a light on your thoughts, emotions, and patterns. The moment you become aware of your negativity, you've already taken away half its power. Questions. Let's say you're walking through your day and suddenly you feel irritated. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. Instantly, your mind begins a chain reaction. What's wrong with people? Questions. Why can't they drive properly? This world is full of idiots. Before you know it, you've carried that irritation into your workplace, your home, your conversations. Questions. One small event ruined an entire day. But here's the thing, the person who cut you off isn't in control of your peace, your unawareness is. Questions. When you become aware, when you catch yourself at that very moment and say, "Okay, I'm getting angry right now," the story stops right there. You've turned on the light. Questions. The anger can't hide anymore. You're not drowning in it, you're watching it. That awareness is freedom. Most people don't realize this, but we live almost our entire lives on autopilot. Questions. We react before we think. Someone says something rude, and before our brain even processes it, our mouth is already firing back. Later we regret it and wonder. Questions. Why did I say that? It's because we weren't aware in the moment. We were asleep, even with our eyes open. Awareness wakes you up. It makes you conscious of your choices. Questions. When you are aware, you begin to see the gap between what happens to you and how you respond to it. And in that small gap lies your power. Let's take a daily life example. Questions. Imagine you're making tea in the morning and the milk spills. Instantly, a voice inside you screams, I'm such a mess. I can't do anything right." But if you're aware, questions, you'll catch that thought mid-sentence. You'll pause and think, "Wait a minute, it's just spilled milk." Questions. Why am I punishing myself for something so small? That's awareness at work. It stops negativity before it grows. Negativity feeds on unconsciousness. Questions. It loves when you don't notice it because then it can disguise itself as truth. But the moment you shine awareness on it, you realize how irrational most of your negative thoughts are. For example, questions. You might think, "Nobody likes me," but when you observe that thought with awareness, you start questioning it. Really, nobody? Not even my best friend, my parents? Questions. My pet? You begin to laugh at how exaggerated the mind can be. That's the power of awareness. It brings clarity. In relationships, true awareness is everything. Questions. When a loved one forgets to call, the unaware mind says, "They don't care about me." The aware mind says, "Maybe they're busy. Let me not jump to conclusions." The situation is the same. Questions, but the outcome is completely different. One leads to resentment, the other to peace. Awareness is not about controlling your emotions, it's about understanding them. When you feel jealous, questions, don't judge yourself. Just become aware. I'm feeling jealous. Observe where it's coming from. Maybe insecurity, comparison, fear. When you see it clearly, it starts dissolving. Questions. Because you can't fix what you can't see, but once you see it, healing begins naturally. Let's say someone compliments your friend and not you. Instantly, a thought arises. Questions. We, not me. You can either get lost in that emotion or simply smile and say, there it is, that little jealousy. Okay, I see you. The moment you see it, it loses its grip. Questions. It's like a thief caught under a flashlight. It can't keep stealing. In our everyday lives, most stress doesn't come from external situations. Questions. It comes from our unawareness of our internal reactions. For example, while working, you might suddenly feel restless. Instead of realizing that you're tired, you keep pushing yourself. Questions. Getting angry, snapping at people. But if you were aware, you'd notice, I'm tired. I need a break. That small realization can save your peace, your relationships, and your energy. Questions. Awareness also brings mindfulness to small moments. You begin to taste your food instead of just eating. You listen to people instead of just waiting to reply. Questions. You walk with your feet on the ground instead of running in your thoughts. Life becomes richer, fuller, calmer. Questions. It's funny how we spend years learning how to fix the outer world, but so little time learning how to observe our inner world. We clean our homes, organize our closets. Questions. Manage our schedules. But how often do we clean the clutter inside our minds? Awareness is the broom that sweeps mental dust. Questions. Let's remember something very profound. The mind itself is not your enemy. It's like a child who sometimes throws tantrums. You don't punish the child, you just stay aware, patient. Questions. And loving. Over time, the mind learns to calm down. Here's a small exercise. Whenever you feel a strong emotion, anger, fear, sadness, stop and ask yourself questions. Who is feeling this? The answer will be, ki me. Then ask again, who is watching me feel this? Suddenly, you'll realize there's a deeper awareness that's observing everything. Questions. That's your true self, peaceful, still, and unshaken. Awareness doesn't remove all your problems, but removes the unnecessary suffering around them. Life will still have challenges, questions, but you'll handle them with wisdom instead of worry. You'll stop reacting and start responding. Imagine your mind as a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it with anxiety and confusion, questions, it stays dirty. But if you place it down and let it settle, it becomes clear. Awareness is that settling. It allows the dirt of negative thoughts to sink, revealing the calm underneath. So, questions. The next time negativity tries to enter your mind, don't fight it. Just notice it. Smile and say, here comes the negativity parade. Watch it walk by, don't march with it. Questions. The parade will pass and you'll still be standing there, peaceful, grounded, aware. Because awareness is not just seeing, it's awakening. The more aware you become, questions, the less power negativity has over you. And when the light of awareness shines bright, even the darkest thoughts cannot survive. Questions. Think of your mind as a beautiful home, spacious, full of light, capable of holding peace, joy, and creativity. But over time, as life happens, this home collects dust. The dust of complaints, questions, the dirt of comparisons, the stains of disappointments. If you never clean it, no matter how beautiful your home once was, it will soon feel suffocating. The same happens to our mind. Questions. It becomes cluttered with negativity, and we forget how bright it once was. Gratitude is the broom that sweeps away that mental dust. Questions. Gratitude is not just saying thank you. It's a way of seeing life, a lens through which you view every moment. Most people think happiness leads to gratitude. Questions. But it's actually the other way around. Gratitude leads to happiness. When you start noticing what you have instead of what you lack, your entire emotional state shifts. Questions. Let's take a simple example. You wake up in the morning and the first thought that comes is, I didn't sleep well. Then, I have so much work today. Then, questions. I wish it was Sunday. You see, the day hasn't even started, and your mind is already dirty with complaints. But imagine if you started differently. You wake up, stretch, and say questions. Thank you for another day. Thank you for this bed, this body, this breath. The same morning suddenly feels lighter. Nothing outside changed, but the inside did. That's the magic of gratitude. Questions. Gratitude is like sunshine. When you let it in, it brightens even the darkest corners of your life. You could be going through a tough time. Questions. But gratitude gives you the strength to find something good even in pain. For instance, someone might lose a job and feel devastated. But if they shift their focus and think, at least I have skills. Questions. I have my health, I have my family. That thought becomes the spark that keeps hope alive. It's not denial, it's divine perspective. In daily life, questions. We often take small blessings for granted. Running water, electricity, food on the table, Wi-Fi, the comfort of home. We only realize their value when they're gone. Questions. Gratitude reminds us not to wait for loss to appreciate what we have. The person who constantly complains will always live in mental poverty, no matter how rich they are. Questions. But the person who practices gratitude lives like a king, even in simplicity. Imagine this scenario: two people are stuck in traffic. The first person fumes, honks, and curses. The second one smiles, questions, plays their favorite music and thinks, at least I have a car, air conditioning, and time to listen to something inspiring. Both are in the same traffic, but their experience is worlds apart. Questions. The difference. Gratitude, it doesn't change the situation, it changes you. Gratitude also transforms relationships. Many relationships fade because people stop appreciating each other. Questions. We focus so much on what's missing that we forget what's already there. You might think, my partner doesn't do enough. But have you noticed how they support you in quiet ways? Questions. Or how your parents sacrifice their comforts for your simples? Thank you, said with awareness, can heal more wounds than 100 apologies. Let's go deeper. Questions. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means acknowledging that even in imperfection, there is something to learn. When life throws challenges, gratitude whispers, questions. This too shall pass, and it's here to teach me something. That mindset turns obstacles into opportunities. There's a story of a monk who was asked how he stays so peaceful all the time. Questions. He smiled and said, every morning I thank God for the things that didn't go wrong. The listener laughed and asked, what do you mean? The monk replied, I thank him that I woke up. Questions. I thank him that my heart is still beating. I thank him that I can see, hear, and breathe. Questions. And I thank him even for the problems that come my way, because they remind me to stay humble and human. That's the heart of gratitude. It turns ordinary moments into blessings. Questions. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need more. A better job, a better phone, a better life. But gratitude tells you, you already have enough. That doesn't mean you stop growing. Questions. It means you grow with joy instead of greed. You chase goals because you're inspired, not because you feel empty. In daily practice, try this simple ritual every night before you sleep. Questions. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. Maybe your morning coffee, a friend's message, or the smile of a stranger. When you do this consistently, questions, your mind starts scanning for positive moments throughout the day. You start looking for reasons to be grateful, and guess what? You'll find them everywhere. Questions. Gratitude is also the antidote to comparison. When you compare yourself to others, you poison your peace. But when you focus on your blessings, you realize everyone's journey is different. Questions. You stop looking sideways and start looking inward. You might not have everything you want, but you definitely have something someone else is praying for. Questions. And that realization humbles you in the most beautiful way. Think about a garden. If you constantly water the weeds of negativity, they'll choke the flowers. Questions. Gratitude is the gardener that removes weeds and nurtures the flowers of peace, joy, and kindness. A grateful mind is not one that has no problems. It's one that refuses to be consumed by them. Questions. There will always be something missing. A dream unfulfilled, a plan delayed, a situation imperfect. But gratitude says, yes, something is missing. Questions. But much more is present. And when you focus on what's present, what's missing loses its power. So start your day with gratitude. End it with gratitude. Speak it, feel it, live it. Questions. When you open your eyes each morning, don't rush into complaints. Pause, smile, and whisper, "Thank you." You'll notice that life starts whispering back. Questions. You're welcome. Because gratitude doesn't just clean the mind, it polishes the soul. It takes your focus away from what's wrong and tunes it toward what's right. Questions. And when your heart is full of thanks, your mind becomes free of negativity. Gratitude is not a reaction, it's a way of living. The more you practice it, questions, the more life gives you reasons to be thankful. Clean your mental room every morning with gratitude. Questions. And you'll discover that peace was never missing. It was just hiding under the dust of complaints, waiting for you to see it again. Questions. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It's also one of the most misunderstood. Fear by itself is not bad. It's a signal, a messenger. It's the mind's way of saying, questions. Something here feels uncertain. But when fear is left unchecked, when we let it drive the car instead of sitting in the back seat, it leads us down the road of negativity, anxiety, questions, and self-doubt. And that's where we need a shift, a transformation from fear to faith. Faith doesn't mean ignoring fear. It means looking fear in the eye and saying, questions. I trust that something good will come out of this. It means changing your inner question from, what if it goes wrong? To, what if it goes right? Let's take a simple example. Questions. You're about to start a new project or apply for a new job. Your heart is racing, your mind whispers, what if I fail? Instantly, your energy drops. Questions. You start imagining worst case scenarios, rejection, embarrassment, disappointment. And often we stop before we even start. But notice what just happened. The event hasn't even occurred. Questions. Yet you've already lived the failure in your head. That's the power of fear. It paralyzes progress before life even gets a chance to show its possibilities. Now, what if you flip that thought? Questions. Instead of saying, what if I fail? You tell yourself, what if this becomes the best decision of my life? Suddenly your energy shifts, your body feels lighter, your mind feels inspired. Questions. And your heart starts to believe. The situation didn't change, your perspective did. That's the power of faith. Fear builds walls, faith builds doors. Fear says, don't step forward. Questions. It's dangerous. Says, faith, step forward, you'll discover something beautiful. Every great person you've ever admired, from leaders to creators to visionaries, felt fear. Questions. The difference is they chose faith anyway. There's a beautiful story about a little bird sitting on a branch. Every time the wind blew, the branch shook. But the bird wasn't afraid. Questions. Do you know why? Because her trust wasn't in the branch. Her trust was in her wings. Faith doesn't mean trusting that life will never shake you. Questions. It means trusting that you have wings strong enough to no matter how hard it shakes. In daily life, fear often disguises itself as logic. You'll hear that voice inside say, be practical. Questions. Don't take risks, play safe. But deep down, you know that voice isn't logic. It's limitation. Of course, being careful is important. Questions. But being overly fearful is like driving with the brakes on. You move, but never far enough. Let's take another common scenario, relationships. Someone hurts you. And fear says, questions. Don't open up again. You'll get hurt. But faith whispers, not everyone will break you. Some people will heal you. Without faith, questions. We build emotional walls so high that even love can't climb in. But faith opens the windows of the heart and lets life flow freely again. Think about a farmer who plants seeds. Questions. He doesn't dig them up every day to check if they're growing. He waters them, nurtures them, and trusts the process. That's faith. We, on the other hand, questions. Plant our dreams and then spend every day digging them up with doubt. Is it working? What if it doesn't? What if I'm wasting time? And then we wonder why the plant never grows. Questions. Faith is the opposite of that. It's quiet confidence. It's believing in your efforts even when results are not visible yet. It's trusting that life's timing is wiser than your impatience. Questions. Sometimes things don't happen when you want them to, not because you're unworthy, but because you're being prepared. Faith teaches patience in the middle of uncertainty. Fear says, questions. I need to see it to believe it. Faith says, I'll believe it until I see it. And the universe often responds to that belief in miraculous ways. Questions. Because your energy becomes magnetic. When you vibrate with trust instead of tension, good things find their way to you naturally. We've all experienced moments when fear took control. Questions. Maybe it was before a big presentation, an interview, or a personal decision. Remember how your heart raced, how your mind created endless what-ifs. Questions. Now remember how often those fears actually came true. Most of the time they didn't. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. That's why awareness and reframing are so essential. Questions. Let's imagine you're afraid to speak in front of people. You tell yourself, I'll embarrass myself. I'm not good at this. That's fear. Now reframe it. What if my words help someone? Questions. What if this talk changes one person's life? Feel that shift. The same situation suddenly feels exciting instead of terrifying. You haven't removed the fear, but you've redirected it. Questions. Fear will always visit. It's human. But faith is the choice you make when it does. You can either feed fear with doubt or feed faith with trust. Whatever you feed will grow. When we live in fear, questions, our world shrinks. We start avoiding challenges, opportunities, and even happiness. We start saying no to life. But faith expands our world. It makes us curious, courageous, and compassionate. Questions. There's an old saying, fear knocked on the door. Faith answered, and no one was there. That's because fear is an illusion. It feels real, but it only lives in the mind. Questions. The moment faith stands up, fear fades away. In your everyday life, whenever fear arises, pause and ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? Maybe it's telling you to prepare better. Questions. To let go of control or to trust yourself more. Fear often appears not to block you, but to build you. The truth is, life will never be completely certain. There will always be unknowns, changes, questions, risks. But you don't need certainty when you have faith, because faith is not about knowing what will happen. It's about knowing that whatever happens, you'll handle it. So, questions. The next time fear visits your heart, smile and say, welcome, old friend. But today, faith will drive. Step forward even if your knees are shaking. Speak even if your voice trembles. Questions. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of it. Reframing fear into faith is not a one-time act. It's a daily practice. Questions. It's the gentle reminder that behind every cloud of doubt, the sun of hope is still shining. And when you choose faith over fear, questions, you don't just change your mindset. You change your entire life's direction. Because fear limits, but faith liberates. Fear whispers, what if you fall? Faith answers softly, questions, but what if you fly? Questions. The most powerful voice in your life is not your bosses, not your parents, not your teachers. It's the voice inside your own head. That voice runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Questions. And it shapes the quality of your life more than any external event ever could. The way you speak to yourself when no one is listening determines how you see yourself, how you act. Questions, and even how far you go in life. If that voice inside constantly says questions, you're not enough or you'll never make it, it doesn't matter how many people cheer for you on the outside. Your inner critic will drown them all out. On the other hand, questions, if that voice whispers, you can handle this, or you are growing, even the toughest challenges become bearable. Imagine this: you're preparing for a presentation. You've worked hard. Questions. You know your topic, but just before stepping up, that inner voice starts. You'll forget your lines. Everyone will judge you. You're not confident enough. Immediately, your heart races. Questions. Your palms sweat and you start to believe the story your mind is telling. It's not reality. It's a self-created narrative. Now, what if at that very moment you changed the script? Questions. What if you took a deep breath and said to yourself, I've prepared well. I'll speak from the heart. I can do this. Suddenly, your shoulders straighten, your heartbeat steadies. Questions. And confidence starts to rise. The situation is the same, but the story changed, and that changed everything. Our thoughts create feelings, and our feelings create actions. Questions. So when your inner talk is negative, your emotions and behaviors follow that pattern. If you tell yourself you're not good enough, you'll start acting like you're not good enough. Questions. But if you tell yourself you're learning, capable, and evolving, you begin to act like it. And eventually you become it. We are often kinder to strangers than we are to ourselves. Questions. When a friend fails, we comfort them. It's okay, you tried your best. But when we fail, we scold ourselves. You're useless. You always mess up. Isn't that strange? Questions. We speak words of compassion to others and words of cruelty to ourselves. But your mind listens to everything you say. Every harsh word you speak inwardly leaves a mark. Questions. Just as every kind word plants a seed, let's take an everyday example. Suppose you spill your coffee in the morning. The unaware mind says, you're so clumsy. That sounds harmless. Questions. But repeat that kind of talk throughout the day, and it becomes a habit. Later, when something bigger goes wrong, a work mistake, a rejection, questions, a misunderstanding, that same inner voice gets louder. See, you can't do anything right. And slowly, without realizing it, you start believing it. Questions. Changing your inner self-talk is like reprogramming a computer. You can't stop thoughts from coming, but you can rewrite the code. When you catch yourself saying something negative, questions, pause and replace it. For instance, instead of I'm not good at this, say I'm still learning. Instead of I failed, say questions. I found one more way that doesn't work. Instead of I can't handle this, say I've handled worse before. This isn't just positive thinking. It's realistic optimism. Questions. It's training your mind to see possibilities instead of problems. Think of your mind like a garden. Your words are the seeds. If you keep planting weeds of self-doubt, questions, don't be surprised when your life feels overgrown with fear and insecurity. But if you plant words of faith, confidence, and love, your garden will bloom with peace and strength. Questions. Here's a beautiful thing: your inner voice was not born negative. It was shaped by years of experiences, judgments, and comparisons. Maybe someone criticized you in childhood. Questions. Maybe society made you believe you're not enough unless you achieve certain things. Over time, those external voices became internal. But just as they were learned, they can be unlearned. Questions. You can teach your mind to speak differently. Let me share a simple daily life story. A woman once told me, every time I look in the mirror, I hear this voice say, questions, you look terrible. I asked her, Whose voice is that really? After a pause, she said, "It sounds like my old boss questions, who used to criticize me for everything." She had internalized someone else's negativity. The moment she realized that, she began to change it. Each morning, she started saying to herself questions, "I am doing my best, I am growing, I am worthy." At first it felt fake, but slowly it became her truth. Her posture changed, her energy changed, her life changed. Questions. That's what happens when you change your inner self-talk. You don't just replace words, you reshape identity. Another example, think of a coach talking to an athlete. Questions. The best coaches don't shout, "You're hopeless." They say, "You've got this. One more try, you can do it." They believe in the athlete until the athlete believes in themselves. Questions. You must become that kind of coach for your own mind, because waiting for someone else to constantly motivate you is like waiting for rain in a desert. Rare and unreliable. Questions. You must learn to water your own soul. Here's a simple technique you can try. Whenever you notice negative self-talk, stop and ask, "Would I say this to someone I love?" If the answer is no, questions, then you shouldn't say it to yourself either. Speak to yourself like someone worth believing in, because you are. Also, remember that your inner talk is not just about words, it's about questions. You can say, "I can do this," in two ways, one filled with doubt, another filled with conviction. The energy behind your words matters. Talk to yourself gently. Questions. The way you would speak to a child learning to walk, with encouragement, patience, and kindness. There will be days when your mind tries to pull you back into old patterns of criticism. Questions. That's okay. Transformation takes time. Every time you correct a negative thought, you're rewiring your brain. Every time you choose compassion over criticism, you're breaking an old cycle. Questions. Over time, your inner voice becomes your best friend instead of your worst enemy. It starts lifting you when life knocks you down. It reminds you that progress is more important than perfection. Questions. It helps you see beauty even in mistakes. So the next time that little voice says, "You can't do this," smile and reply, "Watch me." Let that be your new mantra. Questions. Because your inner dialogue writes the story of your destiny. And when that story is filled with faith, courage, and kindness, there's no limit to what you can become. Change your self-talk. Questions. And you will change your life. Not someday, not when everything is perfect, but starting right now with the words you speak to yourself today.